Good morning, friends, and welcome to this wonderful sunny day at -5 degrees. In my last video I installed the DNA high performance air filter set. Today I will do a few more tests with this filter and without the filter, and I have another modification that I did on my Royal Enfield that I will show you now. My next modification is hidden under this metal plate here. I will just open the cover to show you what's behind it. So now I can take it off, and here it is, the FuelX Lite. I installed this one to optimize the performance of the air filter, and today I will test if this gives a little bit more performance or if the engine runs better, throttle response is better, in addition with the DNA air filter. Quite easy to install. I will show you how I did it. Behind this cover here there's enough place to place the FuelX. I just drilled some holes in the plastic here, took a cable tie and tied it here. Then you can run the cables inside here, put the cover on it, and that's it. On this side I can show you how it's installed. There's a cable for the O2 sensor here in the top. Just take off the tank. There's an Epsilon cable with the FuelX. You just clip it in between the O2 sensor cable, then route the cable under the tank here, bring it to the other side. I'm quite curious if the FuelX gives a little bit better performance or if the engine runs smoother. We will see. I will do some test rides now, especially the FuelX with the DNA air filter. Maybe it's a good combination so that the engine gets an optimized fuel air mixture. And afterwards I will do a test and I will deinstall the DNA air filter, put the original one back inside just to see if there's really more performance that you can feel with the DNA air filter, and I will do an acceleration test from 0 to 80 with and without the DNA air filter, but I will leave the FuelX inside. I just have to check today if the fuel economy with the FuelX changes compared to the standard setting, because I don't want to get a fuel consumption of 4 liters for 100 kilometers. So I hope it stays the same like before, but I will check this today. I will go to the gas station later, fill up and check the fuel consumption, if it's still at around 2.6 liters or if it raises because of the FuelX and the DNA air filter. Here on the top there are 3 lights. Now they are flashing red because they have to calibrate. And normally after a while, now you can see it's green. So now it works perfectly. And this FuelX should calibrate the air-fuel mixture depending on your riding style. And now I will test if this FuelX will give any performance change or running change that you really can feel. Okay, so I will do the first acceleration test now from 0 to 80 kilometers per hour. 0 to 3, okay, and go. Stop. So this was now the acceleration with the DNA air filter set and the FuelX Lite. Okay, now the second turn, still DNA air filter and the FuelX Lite, and go. Stop. You can feel immediately with the DNA air filter set, it's louder. And maybe there's always a little bit of a placebo effect when your engine is louder or your exhaust is louder. You feel that you are riding faster, but when you measure it, you are not. I'm quite happy so far with the FuelX and the DNA air filter. Engine runs good. Even when I'm at 60 kilometers and I'm in 5th gear and I push the throttle, it goes. And it goes very smooth. I will check it now when I change the air filter back to the original one if there's any difference. Especially when you are in 4th or 5th gear. Because they promote the FuelX and the DNA that there's less downshifting. For sure the sound, it's louder, it's a bit louder. But now we have to see if there's any difference in the acceleration between 0 and 80. Maybe it's different between 80 and 110. But now let's just check it out. If the air filter really makes a difference in performance and acceleration, or if it's just a different quality of air filter. To go back to the standard air filter is quite easy. Just open the side panel here, pull it out on the bottom first, then you can take it off. And here you can see the DNA air filter kit. Just 3 screws. This is really simple, very fast. Easy to change, but when you change the air filter, either to the DNA or back to the original one, you have to idle the engine for about 10 to 15 minutes so that the ECU can recalibrate. Third screw, this is the cover and the air filter. Now I just put the original back in. And let's see if there is really any difference. And not only the sound. So this is the original filter, paper filter. This goes in like this, I think. Yes, like this. This means we can just put the filter here on top, like that. Then back inside. 3 screws and that's it. Very fast. And as you can see, there's quite a difference in the opening. As you can see, here's the rubber going in here. So first inside on the top. 1, 2. Then you can just push it in at the bottom. That's it. My manual goes back in here. Close everything and that's it. And now let the engine run for 15 minutes so that everything can recalibrate. So 15 minutes of idling time finished now. So now I will do my next test. But before I do the acceleration test, I will just ride a few minutes to check if everything is back to normal now. And immediately a different sound. It's not as loud as before. So, engine is heated up. Yeah, here I can see the oil temperature. Second test, FuelX Lite and the standard air filter of the Royal Enfield. So 0 to 80 and go! Stop! Yeah, I can feel no difference. The only thing is that the engine is not as loud as before. And the second run, 0 to 80, FuelX Lite and the standard air filter. And go! Stop! So maybe it's enough to use the FuelX with the standard air filter if the acceleration is nearly the same. So when I'm in fifth gear now at 50, and if I pull the throttle, it accelerates very smoothly. And for me the sound is absolutely okay, because the exhaust sound is still there. Yeah, it's not as loud as before. So for sure the DNA filter makes the Royal Enfield Classic a little bit more noisy. But with the FuelX, the engine runs very good, very smooth. No popping sounds, nothing. Okay, so I will do another acceleration test. And if the fuel consumption is nearly the same as before, I mean, maybe I still leave the FuelX inside, because it will keep the engine a little bit cooler in summer, because the engine gets a little bit more petrol. But I will see a little bit later, in a few minutes, when I'm at the gas station. Okay, so the next test now, and go! Stop! Yeah, the feeling with the DNA air filter, it's a little bit different, but maybe it's just kind of placebo effect, that the sound, when it's louder, it feels that you are faster. When I do this test ride from 0 to 80, I can feel barely no difference. The only thing is the sound. It's not as loud as before, but for me it's a very pleasant ride like this. If it's still the sound of the exhaust, but not too loud from the engine side, because the big opening of the air filter gives us a little bit more this raw sound, but I still think the sound of the engine and the exhaust is very pleasant. Not too loud, especially when you go on touring. You don't have this extreme loud noise all the time. So I have nearly 100 k's now. So let's go to a gas station and check the fuel consumption, because all the 100 kilometers I rode with the DNA air filter and the FuelX, yeah, absolutely perfect. 100 kilometers and I'm at the gas station, so let's see how the fuel consumption was. So full, like it was when I started the ride. And let's see, how much is it? 3.56 liters. Oh, that's cold. Okay, so 3.5 liters for 100 kilometers. That's 1 liter more than standard. Quite a lot. Maybe it will be a little bit less when the engine runs a little bit more in. It's now at 800 Ks. Run-in period, sometimes it's about 1,500 Ks, 2,000 Ks, then the engine gets a little bit better, but 3.5 liters? Not very happy with that. Standard should be around 2.6, maybe when it's a little bit more, depending on your riding style, 2.8, let it be 3, but 3.5, 1 liter more. Not so good. So maybe I will deinstall the FuelX. So I think I will keep the original air filter for a while. And for my next longer ride, when it's a little bit warmer outside, I will deinstall the FuelX Lite and check the fuel consumption without air filter, without the FuelX. Hopefully it will go back to 2.6 liters, because this is one of the major benefits of this bike. 2.6 liters per 100 kilometers with a 13-liter tank, close to 500 kilometers of range. I mean, this is amazing. Good for touring, even if it's slow, but if you go roads like this here, country roads, and not on the highway, it's a good bike for touring. This year I will do some longer trips with the bike just to check if it's also possible to do some long road trips with a Royal Enfield Classic 350. But I think yes, my luggage system now with the side panniers and the luggage rack on the back will be enough to put all the luggage there I need. And of course I will keep you updated about my road trips this year. So what's my conclusion about the DNA air filter and the FuelX? Of course it makes the engine run a little bit smoother. The acceleration is a little bit different. The sound is more aggressive, a little bit more roar in it. Especially with the FuelX, I think the engine runs a little bit smoother, accelerates softer. All these popping noises that you sometimes have with the Royal Enfield are gone. I personally prefer the sound with the original air filter, because it's not that loud and you're concentrating more on the exhaust sound. And the FuelX, yeah, maybe the downshifting is a little bit less, because you can run better in higher gears, especially with the air filter and the FuelX. Acceleration in 4th and 5th gear might be better. So if you want to keep your Royal Enfield in the standard setting, it's absolutely fine. There's no problem with it. And if you like a little bit more power in the acceleration and the higher gears, a little bit smoother run of the engine, especially now with the FuelX, then go for it. Only one thing you have to keep in mind: you lose the guarantee. And that's why I will maybe go back to the original just to keep the guarantee span for the next years. But for all who want to get a little bit more out of the 350 engine, yeah, it makes you feel it. Everything is running a little bit smoother, it's a little bit more aggressive, sounds of course more aggressive. If you want to go further, you can change the exhaust, you can change the cam. But I mean, if you want a fast bike, then buy a fast bike. Save the money and do some nice road trips with your Royal Enfield. I think this is the way to go. Leave everything in stock. It's well built, it runs very smooth, it runs good in all the speeds between 60 and 100. And if this is not enough for you, then maybe go for a bigger bike. Yeah, and if you like the video today, please leave me a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. And if you're clicking the bell icon, then you get a notification if there's a new video online. I will just go and bring my bike back in the garage now because I'm absolutely frozen. -5 degrees. It's a little bit too cold, and this is the real temperature. I think the wind chill temperature might be around -10. So if you're riding, ride safe. I see you in the next video. Take care and cheers.